Hey everybody. Well, it's been about a good 6 weeks since I've been rebuilding this cabinet, refrigerator, sink, and table for the stove that fits in my VW camper van, 1970 VW camper van, Westphalia. So anyway, let me take you around what I've done here. I've got it sitting on a cooler because it's so heavy, it makes it easier to move it around. So let me just go through here, show you what I've done. I took this whole thing apart, I mean completely, and I've pretty much photoed everything over the last so many weeks on Facebook. But right here we got the pulled out for a stove. I've taken everything apart, put this back together. It fits nice and snug and it's level. I've checked it a few times. Down here I put some copper brass button tops on top of the old nail holes to give it a little bit of a decorative look. You really don't see it much, but it's still here. And boy, this is firm. Look, nothing's moving here. It's nice and tight. Just like brand new. It ain't going nowhere. When it comes to the icebox, these close ties or hold downs were all rotted. In fact, let me get one, I'll show you. Here are the originals. You can see they were broken, torn, ripped. So I had to do something. So I made me some new ones. What I used was this. This is vinyl. I guess it's floor dressing between the wall and maybe a tile floor. You'll see a lot of it in institutional places, kitchens, bathrooms. You probably remember it from school if you went to a cheap-ass school like I did when you were a kid. Anyway, it's good stuff to use. It fits the size and it fits it just so nicely. And it took me a while to find these damn buttons too, but you'll see it's a nice tight close. Holds it nicely. No problems. This drawer wasn't working. This hardware was all bent up and twisted. So I've taken, like I said, every screw, every bolt, every panel, everything was taken apart and inspected and rebuilt. Anyway, back to this. I took this apart. Again, this is level, sturdy. I put chain on here, and to keep that chain from rattling, I've got this jute twine that I put in between it that I had laying around the shed. I've repositioned this hook and I reworked this receiver so that when this comes up, it locks like it should. I have to say I'm pretty happy about this. Let's go to the sink for a minute. The sink was an interesting challenge. This right here, this area here, is the original Westphalia. There's the vent. The Westphalia vent stack. It goes up into and comes out of the outside of the bus, but on the inside of the camper. The camper lifts up like this. Driver's seat, passenger seat. The camper lifts up like that, and this is within that area. So when the lid comes down, it's covering this exit, but the pipe is still kind of hard to see. As the door opens, it barely cuts this edge. That's why it's bent like this. Well, anyway, I don't have a gray water tank in this thing. It's been gone for many years. Of course, it's a Westy, so I got to keep everything. Anyway, it's been gone for many years, and I don't have a place to put it and don't really need it. We've moved on quite a bit, so I do have a situation where I can make this thing work, and I'm going to show you that right now. But let's go back here. The vent stack cap that I put on here, I spoke of this earlier. I don't know if you can see this black rubber ring here, but that came off of an old gas cap. And the ring sits like this in the gas cap, and it's round. so that when the gas cap goes down, it compresses. Well, I thought that ring would fit good in here. Since it's round, it's steel, and I needed something to go over the edge of the steel like this. You follow me? That's where I got this idea. So I went and got this thing. I had to break out my heat gun, which I always have a heat gun or something like that right here, and slowly stretch this thing. And I did it over about 3 or 4 days. It's a very hard rubber, and it was many years sitting in my shed. But I managed to stretch it so that it fit inside, just like this is the table, this is the gasket, bam, just like that. And then my friend Josephine got this cap that I'll show you later up under here. It screws on. There's a wing nut and a bolt. So it screws on. So when I bolt this down, it compresses that washer. Bam! Tight for water. This water pump was not working. It was shot and had been for years. Seals were gone, everything was gone. I took the whole thing apart, cleaned the entire thing out, reworked a couple of the mechanisms that were in there, and I had some rubber gasket sealer. So I put that inside here when I put all the pieces back together. And when I put this housing back onto here, I used the same aircraft aluminum gasket sealer that I used when I redid the steering box for the van. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I redid the steering box and it required a specific kind of liquid gasket. So I used that here. Since there was very little room to pull this down and these screws were very short and I couldn't get a good gasket in there, so I used that. This here is the water tank's inlet. I've explained how I built this on Facebook in some of the posts about the van's restoration that I'm doing. Anyway, this is how it looks. This is the extra piece of pipe. That gasket right there is just a regular gasket that goes into a U or a P joint plumbing, and you put the pipe on. It has a little gasket and you screw it on. Well, that's what this is. And I've used some outdoor silicone to put that down, and it's this tube, this outer tube, is only about that long, and its whole purpose is to hold this housing into that hole and allow this tube to pop through, so creating a waterproof area at the base of all 3 of these places. And this cap, you can't see in there, but that's the inlet, and the cap just goes on nice and steady. When we come to the back here, I replaced this panel because it was just really bad, and I could pull it off. It's only got a few small nails in it just to kind of hold it, but I don't need to show you what I did here. So what I did here was I just incorporated another piece of backing just to kind of hold things together, and it's just a nice piece of plywood that I got. Try to save everything. And so what I've done here, now I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I got the camera going, trying to hurry, but there's a lot to talk about. We're going to come up under here and I'm going to show you where the vent is. I put an inline vent. You're going to have to look up in there. That little black thing at the top is an inline vent stack. So in the case that I need to vent in order to drain, I can. This pipe here, this white one, that's all new, and that's a P-trap that goes back here to the sink behind this big water tank. 7.5 gallons. I think it's probably more. This black pipe is the original pipe that was hooked up to that Westy vent that goes through the roof. I've used this rubber, and I should be able to get this out relatively easy. I got this rubber housing, so now if I need to drain something, I can drain it. And I've got I don't know if you can see this, but I've got a small piece of paneling just holding this up so that it doesn't fall through the floor. And the pipe allows me to have some leverage, so it's not a big problem. Just give me a second to stick this back in. It doesn't have to be as tight as it was, but I was just trying to get things out of the way when I was initially working on this. I also have, where'd I go? I also have, you can't see it too well, but there's the drain down here. This thing's really heavy, that's why I got it on that cooler to move it around. There's the drain plug, finally. That's a urinal plug. I call it a compression plug, but they call it an expansion plug, so whatever works. Anyway, all this is watertight now. I can drain wherever I need to. I don't need to drain this because it's a water holding tank. And when I'm done, said and done, I can just pull this out. It's relatively simple to do. I just pull this off, pull that cap off, tilt this out and pull it down. I can get anything I need out of this, out of it. So this cap here, just to give it a little bit of a oomph, I guess, because I made it tight because when it sits behind the seat, all this is kept covered, and these two brackets hold it to the seat. But you know, I like the idea that something's kept there. They put a cover here, I put a cover there. My own thing. What can you do? Coming back around, hang on, don't want to knock this thing off. Boy, she is heavy. Let's bring this back around. So the icebox was a nightmare. It was 44 years old and brittle and breaking, cracking. Components of it were broken. Listen carefully. I'm going to turn this fan off. That, my friends, is the sound of a well-built icebox, or cooler, or refrigerator. I redid the seal. I pulled this completely apart. I redid the seal. Behind here is a piece of styrofoam that's cut to this, and then up about that far right here, and then comes down, leaving this hollow. And I don't know if any of you remember, but the entire corner of this was cracked out down here. You can see was cracked over there, cracked a few places. I built a foam core liner for this, wedged it out, spray painted it, got it back in, so in the future if something needs to be done, that liner that's in here will come out. But this is now solid and not hollow, and nothing's going to break it. I also cleaned the inside of this and repainted it, so it's got a nice good look. You have to excuse me, I'm working in the shed and things get dusty. So all this is brand new. I have this plugged in. It's a drain. It goes into that black pipe, so ice will drain into there if I need to. I don't ever think I will, but if I need to. So it's not removable unless I pull that off, but this is removable. And so my idea, which I'm sure other people have had, I don't know where I put them, but my idea is for oh, here we go. My idea is to freeze two of these and stick them right in here. Of course, I'll leave some room for air so they don't expand at the belly. Stick them right in here, and this thing will probably keep ice cool, keep food cool, probably 3 to 5 days. I've read 3 days with one of them, so I figure two of them maybe 3 to 5 days. And anyway, that's how that looks. Nicely done. And I mean, when I say I took everything apart, folks, let me tell you, there wasn't one thing on this that didn't come apart. Every screw, every nuance, every piece of trim. This trim was 1.25 inches too short. I stretched it back out, and you can see right here it met its limit. It started to get thin, but I managed to get the thing on there, And I just lightly glued both ends just to kind of keep it in so it wouldn't buckle up again. So here we go. How about that, huh? Nice. The last thing that's been getting to me is this countertop. This countertop fits over the sink when it's in motion. When the vehicle's in motion, the counter sits like this. You can fix your stuff or whatever. But when you want to use a sink, this is designed to fold over and hang freely. Well, for years, this thing hung freely on one hinge, this hinge specifically, and was twisted to the side and finagled, I mean really bad. So what happens here is when this opens, this thing is supposed to come down and settle. Whoops, settle. But now that I've had to rebuild part of this, so I've got a steel rod. I don't know if you can see it, right there. There's a steel rod here, and then a very thin piece of hard wood. And I needed to do that because these are screws that went into the top here. The screws come in very close to the counter, and they just kind of broke out the top over the years from rough use. So what I did was, believe me, I put it back together the original way, and then it all fell apart after I tested it 3 or 4 times. So what I had to do was take it all apart. I gave myself some time off, and I came up with this idea of a good hard piece of steel and a nice piece of hard wood that I could screw into. Well, let me tell you what, this thing is solid. It's not going anywhere. It feels good. But the other thing I've done,
Turn it.
The other thing I've done, my camera person was talking to me and confusing me, and I've lost my train of thought. Oh, the other thing I've done was I had give me a second here. I had a small thing of silicone that had dried up over the years. It was solid, so I just ripped it all off and cut it in slices, and I made these little bumpers so that when the van is in motion, there's no bouncing and nothing's hitting anything. And I put some glue on these little bumpers so that when I have the table open and I have a little magnet in here, I can just stick them onto there so they don't get lost. The other addition I made was this rack here. This rack here. Boy, it's hot and tight in here. This rack here, what I call corbels, they're really not corbels, they're more like brackets, but I just like the name of corbels. Anyway, these racks I put in here to support this table. And so it's a very simple design. It's just got a little bump out, bam, bam, and the table comes down, bam. It's damn near level, and it's sturdy. Prior to this, when you saw me before, it was kind of hanging down. Well, that's how it always did. But now it's not hanging down because it's got these corbels. And I'm pretty sure it'll hold just about anything. I'll bet this thing will tip right over. Oh, here's a grinder. I'll bet this thing will tip over this way before that shelf goes down. And so there you go. This is what I've been working on the last 6 weeks or so. I'm pretty much over it at this point. I keep trying to figure out glue that'll hold these magnets in. So far I haven't found one, but when I do, that's how they're going to work. Seems like every time I try something, the magnet sticks and the glue lets go. And you know, this may be something that I'll change, but for right now it's what I had, and so it's what I'm using. So I put that right over there, no problem. Bring the corbel in, put the latch up, everything's out of the way. It's restored almost back to its original. with some really nice things added to it. Anything that was originally fit has been refit and retyped. One more thing I added was a bracket to the bottom of this base that I forgot to talk about. This is the bracket that was on it to hold that base up. Just a small aluminum L bracket. And what I did was I decided I had a nice piece of hardwood laying around. You know, I scrapped all kinds of things like dressers and things like that. And anyway, a lot of the times I get some good hardwood out of the drawers or out of the sides of those cabinets. I did get a nice piece out, and so I used that piece over here. Nobody's ever going to see it, but it's decorative and it's nice. This piece is screwed into here and this piece is screwed into there. So folks, this thing ain't going nowhere. And there it is. Just about 6 weeks of rebuilding this cabinet, and all for the irony so that I could remove it and not have it in the van all the time. When I want to just drive around, it's going to be fine. I don't have to have it in there. If I want to go camping, I can throw it back in the van. Haven't quite figured out how to put it back in, but I'm working on that as I go along. But yeah, so I guess the next thing coming up is this. We'll see how this goes, but this is my next adventure. It looks like a brake manifold that I'm going to need to install. And I think I'll be able to do it. I don't see why not. Even though I have no clue how to do that either. But this Dave from Dave's Workshop, which is a crazy thing to say, but you know, people always have their little thing going on, and I guess this is mine. I don't know. Anyway, that's where I'm at. It's finally done. If you've been following me along, thanks for following me. If you've been interested in how this is working out because you have other projects you'd like to do, I hope something I've done has helped you, or the way I've thought about things has helped you. And if you've just followed along because you just like doing, you know, like watching other people do things and seeing how it goes along, thanks for being a part of it, because it's been quite a journey. All right, peace out. That's it for the hippie van for today. Anyway, bye.